Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Prospects of the Land, part of the Baseball Banter broadcast. I'm Ethan Greenberg, along with Taven McCulley and Nate Bope. Well, the Guardians have left much to be desired, but we've been off for a few weeks due to other things going on. Lots of fun stuff, of course, but it gives us plenty to catch up on here. And with that, I'll turn it over to the fellas.
Yeah, like you said, obviously been out for a couple weeks. A lot has happened, as Mike's already in the comments going off as he usually does. 4 trades, and they have gone 6-12 since our last show. So definitely a lot to recap. But obviously, you know, we've all been busy. We've all had stuff going on. And yeah, Nate.
Boy, what a busy time to not only be a sports fan, but just a guy in media, right? Especially in the great state of Ohio. Lots of stuff kicking up this weekend. You've had all the football scrimmages and camps and everything like that, Taven. I'm sure you've been out to your fair share, as have I. Volleyball is starting up this week. Football starts up this week. Soccer, golf, it's all kicking off at the high school level. Busy time for baseball. I've actually been watching a little bit of women's basketball myself too, which has not been too bad. Our main focus today obviously is baseball, and boy, a lot has happened since we have last been able to talk to all of you fine people. We are going to go through pretty much every transaction that the Guardians have made, corresponding moves with the trade deadline and things of that nature. I'm sure all of you are familiar with them at this point, so we can rattle off the big league trades here pretty quickly. So the first one was the fact that Bo Naylor is now no longer a member of the organization. So both Naylor brothers are gone. Of course, Josh a couple years ago, and they found a suitor for Bo. It's the Catching Factory in Milwaukee. Craig Yoho and Blake Perkins.
Sorry.
And then Cody Hoyer went there as well. What?
Mike, maybe Reese Hoskins should give volleyball a go instead.
We will save. I think we'll let Mike do his thing, and we will address what Mike has to say once we get to the Guardians.
Okay, my bad.
A lot to talk about there. Craig Yoho, Blake Perkins come in. Bo Naylor and Cody Hoyer go out. Yoho has not, I think, performed up to the level that we would like him to be at, and I think that many expected him to be at. But again, we'll get there when we get there. When the deal happened, very nice piece to throw into this bullpen that obviously you could see was missing a gear. And even though it seems like everybody's missing a gear right now, eventually that could be a trade that does really, really well for us. Did make a trade for Joe Adell as well, which was the first big move and getting Joe Adell. Taven, remember what we gave up for Joe Adell? It was not much.
Yeah, just Jacob Cozart. Obviously, he was your second-round pick in 2024 out of NC State. Guy Nate was very high on, but at the end of the day, you had a lot of guys in front of him and that in the line, and you look at the grand scheme of things, Cozart was, the 6th or 7th catcher on that depth chart, so.
Yeah, if you're talking about an organizational depth chart, he was well down there. Definitely wasn't going to pass a guy like Cooper Engel. Maybe wouldn't even have passed a guy like Cody Huff. So obviously someone that you had to find a suitor for. So Guardians getting a lot of catchers out of this room. Also made a pretty shocking acquisition. I think once we all saw Joe Adell, we were like, okay, that's going to be it. Nope. Then Nathaniel Lau comes in as well. That deal was a little bit more complicated because you had the Juan Brito thing happen as well. And there are a couple other moves that went along with that, Taven.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, the trade that happened before that too is obviously the big one, which you're probably going to get to with Foster Griffin. But when you talk about Lowe, that was the last thing that happened in the day. Is right at the buzzer. You end up giving up a low-A Hill City pitching prospect whose name can't come to my mind.
Alejandro Rivera. There you go.
There it is, Rivera. Obviously, a guy you didn't have a lot of stake in. Lau's contract's up after this year. So, again, pretty much just a rental on him. You didn't give up much to get him. Love the move. At the end of the day, you needed a power hitter, a guy that you can throw at first base with. Obviously, your first baseman struggling in Manzardo, Fry, and Reese Hoskins. So,
And then obviously the big one, which Mike has very pleasantly put, who we traded for Foster Griffin. And it was nobody that, again, much like the Nathaniel Lau deal, they really had any stake in. Josh Hartle's probably going to be the linchpin of that package. I think Will Dion can be very attractive in certain points. Obviously, as a guy, while doesn't have many games, does have major league experience, has pitched a few times for the big league club this year. But then Nick Mitchell and then Vergez as well. Two guys that were pretty nice players. Yep. They weren't going to pass some of the more top-tier talent that was in the organization. So as we usually say to all the prospects that have given their service to this organization, we wish you nothing but the best. For me, especially for a guy like Josh Hartle. Ethan, what happened over there? Oh, we might have lost Ethan. Oh, no. That's a great freeze frame.
I know. I saw something flashing.
That is a wonderful freeze frame. Hang on. All right, timeout. So that's all the trade deadline pieces. It is
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, obviously we go into, that trade. Just I'll touch on it real quick. Dion, obviously a guy that's kind of platooned from the major league and AAA level, was a starter, moved him into more of a bullpen role over the past couple of years. And a guy who, he hasn't been terrible, but was just obviously, in my opinion, never going to really work out and be a staple of that bullpen. So you give him up, that's not much there. And then Hartle, a guy who's struggled in that Akron rotation amongst other guys down there. Nick Mitchell, a guy who really struggled at the beginning of the year. He has picked it up, as we have covered. He was the leadoff hitter in Akron. Again, great outfielder, but a guy who just what's in front of him, he was never going to touch Cleveland. And Vergez, another solid bullpen guy, but again, we didn't know much about him, and obviously not a lot of stake there as well.
As Mike from the UK has pointed out there as well, the move that came just a little bit after all the trade deadline pieces happened was the calling up of Angel Yanao, which happened, again, pretty quickly after the trade deadline. He's back. We'll address that in a minute here, Ethan. We have now moved on to Gabby Arias and Angel Yanao. So Gabby Arias getting DFA'd. What caused that for me is, look, I know we've talked on the show before about they have too much stake in him. They have too much stake in him. They've got to let him go, so on and so forth. I don't even know that it was his very clear ineptitude, because I think they thought they could fix that and him caring for the game, which I know is a very laughable statement, but sometimes that's the way that the front office thinks. When you have a game that he had, and some of the games that he's had where that shows in the biggest way, and it's just lack of focus, lack of communication. You're not talking with your teammates. You've seen him get frustrated, or I should say other teammates get frustrated in the outfield when he's calling guys off for a ball that's no way, shape, and form supposed to be his. And then the very next crack of the bat, there's a ball that goes by him, and it should be a routine play. You get your glove on it, but can't make the throw. Like, there are just too many things that Gabby Arias needs to work on. Mets did go pick him up, and I don't think we've mentioned this outright before, but in that Nathaniel Lau deal, Juan Brito did get out as well. So a lot of Guardians and former Guardians now moving around, and a bunch of change going on in the organization. We've had some of the new draftees come and play for Hill City lately. So there was a lot of change. But friends, the reason we're starting off the show with this and everything that happened at the trade deadline is because I came on here and said I would have been pretty happy even if they made no moves, because who knows what is going to happen with this new CBA. Well, they made some moves, and I'm not here upset because they made moves. Have the moves worked out to their full potential? No, but we'll get there, and we'll talk about why. But let's rewind a couple of weeks. Not knowing what we know, and the fact that the team is really struggling right now. They're struggling to find wins. They're struggling to put together consistency in every aspect of the game all at the same time. This changes a lot of things for the organization. They have now proven that they can go out and make some moves. And you didn't even have to really sacrifice that much more money to do it. Foster Griffin is on a very, very low contract. Jo Adell is on a very, very low contract because you got a guy in Foster Griffin that was pitching overseas last year and has become a surprise all-star and still has some tremendous upside outside of this year. I do not believe this is a David Fry situation where we're never, ever going to see this again from the guy. I believe Foster Griffin's got potential to do this year in and year out. And then Jo Adell, if you follow minor league baseball and prospect rankings throughout baseball, you know he was a very highly ranked prospect, not only in the Angels organization, but throughout all of baseball. Has had a couple pretty decent seasons as of late, including one where he really broke out with nearly 40 homers. Just hasn't put it all together in the way that the Angels want. Obviously, the Angels were a very big seller at the deadline, and Jo Adell is now here in Cleveland. Craig Yoho, again, another very underrated bullpen arm. Nathaniel Lau on an expiring contract. But again, without knowing what we have seen and how these guys have performed is a conversation for later on in the show. Let's talk about the organization. Things have changed. Yeah. And now, as unfair as it may be in some aspect, this is the expectation now. If you feel like you're close, you make a move. Did they do it out of desperation for the CBA or not? I think that's what we'd like to discuss right now, right?
That's me choking. Okay, I probably choked when the team made these moves, and now I'm watching the team choke away this opportunity playing in a very weak American League. And we'll get to all this, but it really makes me ponder a couple of things, and we'll get back around to it. One is, notwithstanding the potential labor stoppage next year, what does this do for the mentality of the front office and the ownership when we get to this situation again? Let's say the Dolans are still in charge. They're the ones controlling the checkbook, and it's the same front office. You said, okay, I'm going to go out and make some moves, and it didn't pay off. So now in the future, are they going to be a little bit less likely to make moves? I don't know. That's something to think about. And then as well, they went out and made moves. So you say to yourself, why wouldn't you do this all the time? What is your big deal with holding on to a bunch of prospects who are backlogged in the farm system and are never going to make it here, so that you can sacrifice losing again? But I'll let you guys go.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I want to bring up to the point of, are the Dolans going to be more hesitant to make moves? I think we just have to wait and see how this really does pan out, right? We still have a month and a half left of the season. And let's not forget, when we traded for Lane Thomas, he really wasn't what we thought he would be until the postseason kind of hit. He struggled when he first got here. So who's to say these guys don't? The whole team's struggling as a whole.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement.
When Joe Adell first got here, his first game, I think he had he might have had 3 hits in that first game. So
Angel Yanau's debut, he went 4 for 5. So,
these new guys,
Nathaniel Lau's had a couple homers.
Yeah, I just think it's going to take time for the new guys to just settle in, similar to Lane Thomas, especially with the rest of the team struggling. Right? Obviously, that doesn't help by any means, and we're definitely going to touch on how the rest of this team is done. But again, I don't think it's, willing to overreact quite yet. I mean, they've been here about 2 weeks now. So we've seen spurts of what we know they can do out of every guy, in my opinion, maybe with the exception of Yoho. We're just going to
wait a second. I just thought of something. So I was thinking, and someone else might have said it as well, but I thought when I hear Yoho, I say yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Is he a pirate and he's wearing an eye patch and only pitching with one eye? Because he stinks.
Well,
he needs to walk the plank. Okay. I want him off my ship now.
I thought you'd be jumping for joy with Arias and Naylor gone.
Oh, I am. But Yoho has been a bust so far.
What Ethan is exemplifying right now is the perfect bipolar baseball fan mentality, because the moves were made. We're happy the moves are made, I think, for the most part. And now we're complaining that the moves are made.
Well, wait, I'm happy with all the moves they made. don't get me wrong. I like Adele. I like Nathaniel Lowe. Or is it Lowe or Lau? I've heard it both ways.
Great question.
I believe it's Lowe, so I think I said it wrong.
All right, so Nathaniel Lowe and Adele, great acquisitions. Foster Griffin, great acquisitions. I like those moves. Yoho is the one who's leaving a lot to be desired. And then just the rest of the roster is the issue. So please don't get me wrong. I was very excited.
No,
Taven,
yes.
we were talking we were talking with Jonah Advincula and Festa because we spent more money on him. Festa is worth, but we were talking to Jonah Advincula when all this was going down, and and so I'm very excited by all the moves, but Yoho has kind of stunk is the problem, and that's a bummer, quite a bummer.
So I've got to bring this. Hold on. I'm sorry to get us off track again, but what happened to your Wi-Fi?
My Wi-Fi?
Yeah. What happened here? You had quite the screenshot.
Oh, it's the we've got
something flash and then you just left.
Yeah, we've got storms in the area. We've got thunderstorms, lightning going on out there, and it blipped the power. And then I thought it would come back up, and it had knocked out the internet for a moment. I had to wait for the router to reset. So that was it. But yes, that is what happened.
The world needs to stop being one big ball of storm cells. That's what genuinely needs to happen.
I don't know. That's a toss-up, Drew. No one can be worse than Festa. Yeah, I'm going to say for the price, no one can be worse.
Armstrong's close.
He was very close, but he got less money, I think. So, right? Did he get? No, did he get more money than Festa? They both stink.
Armstrong's $8 million, I think.
Oh yeah,
no, Armstrong's 5.5.
Is he?
Not that much.
Well, regardless, they both have not been worth the money. Let me ask you a question, guys, about when you talk about money, and we can address this later. Do you think that's why Rhys Hoskins is still on this team? And you can ponder that and think about that.
Well, Rhys. It's tough because obviously when the moves were made, the first thing that came to my mind was, look, you're gonna either with the acquisition of Lau, you're either gonna get rid of Manzardo or Hoskins, right? It's gonna be one of the two. You're either gonna option Manzardo or you're just gonna outright DFA Hoskins. It's a good question. Is it money or do you need another veteran leader on that team? And obviously Manzardo struggled. Do you put him down to AAA to boost that confidence, or do you just let him rot on the bench? It's tough, Nate.
Well, here's I think the thing that you don't really think that much about, and it's the fact of what does he do for the locker room? Because I think which I guess I could even backtrack on my own question. And I know it seems like such an overrated thing, but I mean, that's why Austin Hedges is here. And obviously you have seen what Austin Hedges has turned into. He's turned the bat around and done all this stuff, right? Yeah, that's tough. I think Mike brings up a good point, which I had just thought of too. And it's probably the fact that Ralphie's not on the 40-man. So you'd have to find a 40-man roster spot for Ralphie Velasquez and then have to break the news to Rhys Hoskins and then pull something up like that. But exactly what Mike said here, Hoskins, it's probably like Santana, so that's why I say me bringing up the locker room could be a moot point, because Santana did a lot for the locker room, coming back, knowing the organization, and then they shipped him out the door last year.
Well, we also
they did not do the same thing with Hoskins.
We also know they have a lot of stock in that, because obviously that's why Hedges has had a home here for the last 5-6 years. So
right, but it is funny. Drew brings up a good point here. Well, talking about what Tom Hamilton talked about, and he says he talked about it a bit before a bit today at the ballpark, saying Hoskins is a big locker room guy. I just actually wanted to hit on the fact that seems like Hammy is fed up with some stuff. The Hammy shade he's been laying it on thick.
I don't blame him.
He's ticked off with what he's watching out there. And I don't blame him. And as fans, we should be upset with what we're seeing. The fact that this team cannot knock in a run, that they're leaving so many on base and hitting so poorly with runners in scoring position, I don't understand it. And we I believe we probably hit on this before, but the fact that essentially Guard's ball was this exemplified by doing all the little things right. Moving runners over, fielding cleanly, all those sorts of things. And they are doing none of those right now. And it's very unfortunate that it's happening this season. Again, I believe Mike and Drew both pointed out we're a game and a half out of a wild card spot. So there's still plenty of time, as you said, Taven, to make a move. But again, I don't want to derail this conversation any further. And I want to let us get through all the transactions, and then we'll kind of bring things full circle.
Well, we will now dive into the minor league transactions, talk about who's been doing well over the past I'll say just over the past month, who's been hitting really well, pitching really well. And first, let's go through the other transactions that happen within the minor league system, thanks to Guards Insider and Guardians Prospective. It's where I'm compiling all this information from. I'm just going to go in order of the way that these tweets appear. If we need to stop and talk about anything, let's do it. There hasn't really been any big major shifts since Angel Yanao got called up. But back on August 3rd, they did release Tanner Burns. And then the following day, ton of stuff happened. Connor Brogdon is going to try to come back off of some injury and some rehab stuff. He is in Columbus right now. Ryan Degas, Michael Kennedy, Logan Clark went up from Lake County to Akron. Jorvik Abreu went from Hill City all the way to Akron, so he just skipped Lake County. He'd been hitting the ball really well for the Howlers. Connor Whitaker and Luis De La Cruz went up from Hill City to Lake County, so they didn't skip. And then a couple of guys from the complex got up to Hill City, Harrison Ruiz and Manuel Osorio. I don't believe either of those guys were draft picks either, so that's a move that we don't touch on enough on this show, but the complex getting up into the single A system, so very nice to see that there as well. Dom Nunez has had quite the week of coming off and on and then back on the development list, as is Ryan Webb on the development list in Columbus there as well. There's been a couple different guys that have been recalled up and down from the big league club, as well as some guys that are getting off of injury. So Ryan Webb actually is off of the development list. I did see that. And then Esteban Gonzalez in Lake County. On the 7-day IL, and I don't believe he's been reactivated yet. There's more that's coming up here as well. Jack Jasik, however you pronounce his last name, he went up to Columbus all the way from Akron. The Jorvik Abreu stay in Akron was very brief because immediately he went right back down to Hill City a week later. And then there are some pretty big moves here that came a week ago. Jace Laviolette went up to Akron along with Kevin Rivas. So Laviolette getting that call after he's been performing really well in Lake County. Bunch of guys going up to Lake County as well. And another big move like we saw in the previous show that we had done. Riley Nelson, Dowry Fernandez, Jose Perella, Victor Izturis, Aiden Major, and Zane Petty all went up from the low A affiliate in Hill City to Lake County. And then a bunch of the new draft signees, Deaton LaChance, Ben Cleary, Alejandro Garza, Lucas Moore, Eric Descends, Parker Coyle, Carson Lane, and Ryan Bilka all went to Hill City. Those are all guys that are coming there out of the draft. A couple other things happened deep in the Dominican League stuff. And I don't think I'm missing anything, am I? I don't think so.
Lots to keep track of.
Yeah, there is a lot to keep track of. It's also what happens when, you get busy and you miss a couple different weeks. Ryan Webb, actually, I did miss something. He is back on the development list, and Ben Lively was activated off the 60-day IL. So there's something else potentially to look forward to. Another thing, Logan Allen. I believe this was yesterday, 2 days ago, something of the like, but he is now back with the big league club, I believe for the first time this year, as Franco Aleman has been optioned back down. So I don't think this organization is done making moves, either with prospects, with big leaguers, whatever have you. But obviously the one that stands out from everything I was just able to list off there, Jace Laviolette getting the call up to Akron. That's the big one.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, obviously a lot of moves. Good to see Lively getting back into the things of it. Columbus too. Got your big piece, Jace Laviolette moving around. So a lot of transactions. Sucks to see guys like Tanner Burns, ultimately come to an end. A guy who's been with us for a long time. I thought had a lot of upside, but at the end of the day, it's baseball and there's a lot of moving pieces. So,
Ethan, anything of note from you over what I was able to just list off?
No, that was a lot of stuff going on there, and I think some of the guys who went down obviously is a bit of a story from the Big League Ball Club sending Fry and Manzardo both down to Columbus. Good for Columbus, not so good for them. I feel badly for David Fry. Because he just wasn't getting enough consistent at-bats and an opportunity. I would much rather see him playing first base and playing on a regular basis than Rhys Hoskins, to be fair. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but hopefully if they need him, they can call him back up and he can contribute. Manzardo, I'm glad to see he shaved his mustache. That was very important for me. He didn't deserve mustaches are for winners. Okay. But maybe he can find something down there. Maybe he can have a Rocchio-esque experience where he has to go down for a while to Columbus, work on things, and eventually when he gets the opportunity, he can return to the Major League Ball Club and contribute. But yeah, the pitching staff is certainly running on fumes. At least the bullpen is, which is kind of crap. And again, we'll get to all of that as we go through. But yeah, all those moves, that's a lot. That's definitely a lot.
Well, you talk about some of the acquisitions being good for Columbus. I think there are a couple different things you can say with Columbus. One, a lot of the acquisitions can benefit their roster, but also in other ways, the lack of acquisitions or transactions in other ways also is benefiting Columbus. And you'll understand what I mean by that in a minute. Since we last came on here and talked, obviously it's been 3 weeks, so 3 series. Columbus has done really well. They took 5 of 6 from the Toledo Mud Hens, ended up splitting with Syracuse, and in a rain-shortened 4-game series against Omaha this week, they were able to take 3 of 4. Right now, they sit 22-21. They're back above 500, 6-4 in their last 10. But if you extrapolate that out over their last 20, I think they're like 14-6 or something close to that mark. And now I've really started to climb that table. 5.5 games back of a playoff spot. They're going to need to keep up this hot stretch. But that's because a lot of guys over the past month have been hitting well. Ralphie Velasquez is the prime example of that. In the last 30 days, so this is even going back before our last show too, he's hitting .253 with nearly a 1,000 OPS, 10 home runs, 21 of 83, 16 runs, 21 RBIs, a pair of doubles in there, and is just playing really nice baseball. So that's where I say the lack of transaction and acquisition is really, really helping out Columbus right now. But guess who else has been hitting the baseball really well? Both catchers. I mean, look at Cooper Engel over the past month, man. 352 is the batting average over the last 30 days. He's got 32 hits, which is by far and away the most on this Clipper team. 5 home runs, 18 hits, or I say 18 RBIs, sorry. That's all over 91 at-bats. His OPS is over 1. Cody Huff has also been hitting the baseball really well. 6 homers, 15 RBIs. His walk-to-strikeout ratio is really, really good. And even though the batting average is not where you want it to be, he's mashing the baseball when he does get a hold of one. Milan Tolentino's hitting .231. He's put up some solid numbers before he got called up. Angel Yanao was doing really well. And there's just some other guys that I think are swinging a really, really nice bat. Dion Frias is. Blake Perkins actually has not been doing too bad. He's 7 of 22. In his first 7 games played as a Guardian or as a member of the Guardians organization with 1 homer, 3 RBIs, so on and so forth. Daniel Schneemann, he's been pretty solid since he got sent back down as well. And then the 2 guys that obviously came down from the big league club. David Fry has 5 homers in 7 games, 13 RBIs, 276. So David Fry still showing what he's capable of. Kyle Manzardo, he's still struggling to find that rhythm a little bit. 6 of 28, does have a pair of homers, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts. So that's getting better, but 214 batting average. Like to see him definitely do a little bit better there. Guys, before I move on to the pitching, lots of great bats going on in Columbus right now. It is the big reason why they are doing as well as they are. Especially if you look at that Toledo series, not 6 runs, 9 runs, 9 runs, 9 runs. They didn't score less than 6 runs in that entire series, just gave up a little too much in that Saturday game, scored 15 in a game against Syracuse and actually didn't even score less than 5 there, and then just had 1 stinker this series against Omaha where they only scored 2, lost that one and had a game where you scored 15.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing and the biggest positive that you could take away from that is they're doing something that the big league club's not, and that's swinging the bat and being able to produce runs, right? Columbus, last time we were on, they were in a spot where we didn't really know how the rest of this season was going to go for them. But as Nate said, these past 3 weeks, they've been able to turn this thing around. Bats are rolling and the winds start flowing. So ultimately, they're putting themselves in a better spot now, above 500. So again, if they continue on this, they can make a run.
Yeah. We'll have to see. That's yet to be determined. Are they making up a lot of ground right now as well as they've played? If you look at the standings, just to kind of point this out, not to be a Debbie Downer, which I'm very good at, we're now, according to the standings I'm looking at, and I know we said 12-8 in their last 20 in their 3 series, 6-4 in the last 10, but we have won 2 consecutive. We're still, as you mentioned, we're still 5.5 behind Indianapolis. Indianapolis is also 6-4 in their last 10. So unfortunately not making up any ground on them. Hopefully you can continue to string together and stack these wins. It's all good. That's all good to see all of that. I guess the questions that we have when we get around to the big league club and talking about probably Ralphie Velasquez really is going to be the biggest question here. And then also, as Mike asked in the chat, what's going to happen if Chase DeLauder, who left today's game with some hamstring, maybe tightness, I think is what they said, just minor, if he has to go on the injured list, who are they going to call up from Columbus, or what's the move going to be? Do you bring up, I'm trying to look at who we've had up. Do you bring up Khalil Watson then? Do you bring up Schnee, who's kind of a utility guy? I don't know, but anyhow, so we can move on to the, as you said, the pitching.
Yeah, we'll revisit the Chase DeLauder conversation because I think that's an interesting one to talk about. And the reason that it may seem like that Columbus is not making up that much ground is because, look at the 3 teams ahead of them in the division right now. Omaha, they've been pitching pretty decently enough, and they've also been scoring runs. St. Paul has just been pitching really well, and then Indianapolis probably has the best pitching staff in all of the International League throughout the entirety of the second half so far. There are guys that have strung together some good performances, but over the last 30 days, the ERAs are not where they need to be. Trenton Denholm in 5 starts is a 5.84. Even with 25 strikeouts and only 4 walks, he's given up 4 home runs, just way too much. Rorik Maltrud has given up 6 home runs, and even though the strikeout numbers are great, 5 games, 4 starts, a 4.18 is not terrible, but you've got to lower that home run ball. Yorman Gomez has given up 7 home runs, and he's really been starting to have command issues over his last 5 starts. Austin Peterson, though, good to see him getting back into what I think everyone saw him do in Akron. 226 over 4 starts, not bad. 18 strikeouts to 4 walks, and has been able to limit guys getting around the bases. So, pretty good stuff there from Austin Peterson. Logan Allen, he's been doing not too shabby, obviously, with the call up there to Cleveland as well. See what he can provide with the big league club. And then with the bullpen, Daniel Espino has been really good, and that's kind of been about it. I think Carlos Hernandez has had some solid outings. Okay, that's not to say all these these guys have had solid outings here and there. Lively in a start, four innings, 3 strikeouts, just 2 hits, not much more to speak of. So good to talk about for him there. Connor Brogdon's been good since he got there and is rehabbing his stuff, but just other guys are not producing, man. Trevor Stephan, bad. Hunter Stanley, not great. Steven Perez, not great. Jack Leftwich, there you go, Taven, back to his old ways. Ryan Webb obviously being placed on the development list because in 5 games, he's only pitched 4 1/3 and has allowed 9 runs. That's good for an ERA close to 20. Pitching's just got to be able to find it. They have their spurts and their moments, but when the offense is rolling, you got to be able to put pitching together, because if these bats continue to roll and the pitching even finds a little bit more rhythm, you probably can win 4 of 6 in every series you have left, which might be what it takes to get into a playoff spot.
Weirdly enough, that's been the theme with not just Columbus, but it seems like every single level of the organization this year. Pitching struggled. Yeah, a lot of veteran dudes up there. It's shocking to me to see a lot of these guys struggle, of like Webb and guys of that nature, but it's been the theme this year, which has just been crazy in my opinion.
Let's move on down to Akron, and we'll move a little bit faster through all of the organizations. Over the last month here, there have been some guys that have really struggled in Akron. Jason Churio is one of them. Just has not been hitting the baseball as well as we saw him do it in our last show. However, he's been a menace on the base paths. 11 steals over the past month. That's a pretty good number for a guy that just has not gotten on base that much. So imagine if his batting average is closer to 250, the on-base percentage closer to 400. Imagine how many bags that guy can go swipe. But there have been guys that are swinging the absolute daylights out of the bat, like we just saw in Columbus. Alex Mooney will highlight first. He's been really, really good. 310 batting average. And all the numbers just look great. Couple homers over the last month. He's hitting for extra bases. Love to see that. Aaron Walton, same thing. Batting average at 259, but the OPS is pretty similar because he's got 7 doubles, a triple, pair of homers. He's been swinging a really, really nice bat. Dean Curley's not doing too shabby, 3 homers. Nolan Schubart is adjusting to Double-A really, really nicely. 289, 940 OPS, 5 homers, 19 RBIs, 2 doubles and a triple. But the guy that we've got to highlight over the past month from Akron, has anybody been swinging the bat in the organization better than Ryan Cesarini? That guy has been absolutely killing it. The OPS is over 1.2, has got 8 home runs. I think 3 came in the same game earlier this week. Was it, Taven? Or last week?
That's a good question. I think it was this week. Yeah, 3 bombs.
Yeah, he's been absolutely tearing it up. 21 RBIs for him, which is the club high, of course, those 8 home runs, and he's stolen 6 bags. A couple other guys that you can highlight there as well. Their game did get postponed today, but we'll move on to the pitching because, well, the theme again, pretty similar, although it is better than what we have seen out of the likes of the Columbus Clippers. Caden Favors, 4 starts, 30 strikeouts over the past month. He's been killing it. The ERA is 3s. Had a little bit of a home run problem, but other than that, he's given up virtually nothing. Jack Jasek, ever since he got there, or I should say ever since he got called down, correct? Since he got brought down, he's been doing really well, like really well when he's pitched with the Ducks this season. Isaac Martinez continues to do his thing. They're trying to throw Sean Matson into the starting rotation a little bit, so he's seeing his struggles with that. But then Ryan Degas has had 2 starts and shutout starts in both of those appearances. Braylon Doty starting to get back to his upside. Josh Hartle, I believe, obviously he's gone now, but before he did leave, was pitching pretty well. Dylan DeLucia, Cam Walty, they haven't been too bad either. I'm just looking at who's done what over the past month. Pitching is much better than it has been in Columbus, but there are a couple bullpen guys that have yet to find their rhythm. And just some guys that I think you'd like to see perform at a little bit of a higher level. But overall for the Ducks, it's been really good. Before Taven takes the reins, that series against Erie was not pretty. It just wasn't pretty. You ended up only taking 2, but then you split with Somerset, and you end up winning 4 out of 5 against Altoona, because today got postponed due to rain. So currently the Ducks, still a lot of work to do for Akron in the Eastern League. They are climbing back to that 500 mark, 20-24. They're starting to play much better, 7-3 over their last 10. But yeah, still 10.5 games behind Erie, because that team is a wagon in the Eastern League right now. Fellas, thoughts on the Duckies?
Yeah, like you said, obviously a team that's really starting to find their groove. Saw that in the Somerset series, and then that just carried over to Altoona. Before today's game, won 7 in a row. We talk about how hard it is to win a series, or to sweep a series with it being 6 games. Obviously, they didn't do that, but to get 7 in a row is just absolutely incredible for this team. And like you mentioned, I mean, the thing that jumps out to me is Schubert and Cesarini, right? We knew these guys were swinging a good bat down in Lake County, but they come up here, and I mean, it's almost like they were a major league guy getting moved down to AAA, and they're just in an easier competition. I mean, Cesarini, 385, like you mentioned, he had that game with 3 home runs. Nolan Schubert, 299, just under 300. So again, a lot of the young guns down in Akron, they're starting to shine. Laviolette's struggling a little bit. Would like to see him start to break out too. But again, can't ask for anything better than when you see these young guys come up through the ranks, especially guys that you have a lot of stock in. Cesarini being, I want to say, a round 5 or 4 draft pick, and Schubert being round 3. So just love to see what Akron's doing.
Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, is it the norm that we see not one team, but 2 different teams with the split season, the first half and the second half? In the first half of the season, Richmond went ballistic and nuts and was crushing everybody. Now Erie is crushing everybody. Is this the norm? Am I missing something? Because
no, it's pretty typical.
Pretty typical. Okay.
That's pretty typical because of what Lynchburg did last year. Like they were rolling through everybody in the first half of the season. And even then, like they were in a pretty tight race, if I remember correctly, last year. But this is the norm, because once you win the first half, usually it means a lot of guys in your organization are performing really well, and then they get called up. It's the nature of minor league baseball. You've got to adjust, and you've got to find a way to be able to recuperate that talent, which I think this organization absolutely can. But when you take a look at things like Richmond and even Hartford, like they won the first half in the Northeast, and they are 13 games below 500 this half.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But as you just pointed out, the relevant stuff of players when you're on a really good team in the farm system, that means they're probably playing well enough to get called up to the next level. And this is just such as the nature of minor league baseball, and it's just interesting, or I guess it kind of sucks. I'm just going to put it. It sucks that the first half of the season you got Richmond running away with it. Now you got Erie running away with it, and you're 10.5 games out of first place. Whereas you look and you say, well, Chesapeake is 6 games above 500. We're 5 games behind them. You'd think, hey, there we go, we got a shot. But no, not to be happening. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, 'tis the nature of the beast. Lake County, over the last month, nobody's swinging a better bat for the Captains than Welbin Francisca. 9 home runs, 20 RBIs, and a 341 average and a 1.179 OPS. 30 hits, including 9 doubles and the 9 home runs over the last month. Jeffrey Mercedes has been swinging a really nice bat for them, as has Garrett Howe, who's hitting around 302. Jonah Advincula, who you guys just talked to, a great interview and a lovely human being. 15 stolen bags over the past month. And again, he was coming off some pretty nice weeks before you guys happened to talk to him there. That has been absolutely amazing to see from Jonah. He slowed down a little bit, but still playing really nice. Juniker Caceres playing really nice. And then first couple series for a couple new guys. Luis De La Cruz doesn't seem to affect him at all, moving up a level at second base and in the middle infield. He's doing a really nice job, as has Anthony Martinez. Jose Perella, really nice first series for him this week as well. 6 of 16, did have a homer in there. So there are some guys that are coming through the system. Riley Nelson had himself a pretty nice series. here as well. So some good stuff being seen out of the captain's bats. Meanwhile, when you take a look at their pitching over the last 30 days, it's a pretty similar story to what we see out of Columbus, because there are guys pitching really well. Melquis Hernandez is one of them. He's got some really weird command problems because he's actually allowed more walks than he has hits over the last month, but he's got a 1.06 OPS. He's only allowed 2 runs in his last 8 games. So I'm not going to complain much, if it's not broke, don't fix it, I guess. And then Jacob Zibin there as well. He's performing really nicely in his last 5 starts, 24 strikeouts, only 3 earned runs, and has just been lights out from a pitching standpoint. Other guys have got to start getting things together. Jackson Humphreys, Will McCausland, Harrison Bodendorf, Nelson Keljo, a couple other guys like Jogly Garcia, who we hope can get back into a starting role like he was last season for Lynchburg, now Hill City. Xavier Martinez, he's actually been pitching well, as has Donovan Zach. So pretty similar story with Columbus. There are a lot of bats performing really well. And except with the exceptions of Hernandez and Zibin, the pitching staff's got to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Nate kind of summed it up, right? Obviously, very tough series against Lansing, but you're able to bounce back to in this past series just to, boost your morale a little bit. But again, the bats have been on. Pitching's just got to find it. And it just hasn't just been Lake County. It's, AAA all the way down to obviously Hill City.
They had 2 really tough series because I think they only won 1 or 2 against South Bend, and then you lose the first 5 in your series against Lansing before taking 4 of 5 from the Dragons this week of Dayton, and they still are in a solid enough spot. They're below 500, of course, but now you got to compete with West Michigan, the Juggernaut's back, and Great Lakes. So 6 games out of a playoff spot, still plenty of baseball to go, but you've got to be able to start finding that rhythm here pretty quickly for Lake County. Ethan, thoughts on El Capitan?
Well, you obviously nailed all the highlights or the lowlights as they are with the statistics. But again, as you just mentioned, only being 6 games out of a playoff spot behind West Michigan and 5 games behind Great Lakes, there is still plenty of time. I feel like that's not as much of a mountain to climb as we talked about with Akron in the Eastern League and AA. So that's definitely a good thing. But I just wanted to comment that I find it kind of crazy, and we're going to have to look into this. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on the fact that there are 2 pitchers for Lake County whose last names start with a Z. I mean, to have 1, okay. 2, really? Coincidence? I think not.
Ethan might be onto something there. Talk to Donovan Zach and Jacob Zibin about it. We should get them both on.
Yep, because now I had a teacher in high school, and it was our psychology class, and he said it. Well, if you fall asleep, I'm going to put a Z in the grade book.
That's a good one. That's actually a really good one.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Anyway, moving on.
I would not have come up with that. For Hill City, here's who's swinging the bat, who's still currently there. Rainer Herrera, 4 homers over the last month. Again, we know the Carolina League, not a homer-built league. But I do want to highlight one man in particular over the past month, or actually 2 guys. I believe Dowry Fernandez has gotten that call up. But before he got called up to Lake County, 257 average and stole 16 bags. The other guy doing that, Jonathan Martinez, he's still there. That guy's an on-base machine. His on-base percentage is nearly 500 over the past month because not only is he 16 of 65, swinging a pretty decent bat with a 246 average, he's drawn 30 walks. 30 walks over the past month. That's a walk a day. And over a walk a game. So he's doing his job, getting on base, and has even got a fair share of his RBIs there as well, 9. Rainer Herrera is the pretty obvious guy there. But then let's talk about some of the guys that have been drafted that now are seeing time with Hill City. Ben Cleary, good solid start for him, 4 of 12 this last series. Eric Desens, not so much. Of course, you got some time to get him going. Deaton LeChance, 2 of 9, did come around to score 5 runs, stole 3 bags. So lovely, good stuff to see from there. And then Gabriel Rodriguez. So the next up-and-coming Gabby, even though he has not gotten on base that much, has stolen 14 bags, drawn his fair share amount of walks. And there are a bunch of other guys that are swinging a pretty decent bat, but those are obviously the highlights. And then when you take a look at the pitching side of things, Ryan DeSanto is going to be your leader in strikeouts over the past month. But like we talked about with all the organizations, I could pretty much go down the list and find something, maybe besides a guy like Aaron Savari, who has been very savvy with his pitching. He's been really, really good, as was Nelson Keljo before he got called up. Ryan DeSanto, Arigaldi Perez, Ryan Prager, Miguel Flores, and Aiden Major in their starts. They've had some solid moments, but everybody just seems to be walking guys right now. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pitchers with double-digit walks over the past month, and that's not necessarily going to get it done, especially a guy like Luke Fernandez, man, who's really, really been struggling, has a 12.66, as has Javi Torres. So pretty similar story. I feel like we say this every show, but copy paste.
Yeah, like you said, copy paste.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Hill City. Give me 1 second. My app has to load. Hill City, what they have done against Fayetteville in their first series after our last show. Not great. They only won a game. Then you get the split with Wilson. There you go, before only winning 2 out of 5 against Myrtle Beach. Hill City this year has really dug themselves a hole. They did it in the first half. They're doing it again in the second half. They're still 17 games back, or not 17. Wow, I'm all over the place. They're 13 games under 500, 9.5 games out of first place. I don't think we're going to see Hill City, then Lynchburg, get a chance to defend their title that they were able to go win in the Carolina League last year. At least it's not looking that way. However, there are some guys that are having themselves decent years down there in Hill City. You've obviously seen that with a lot of the call-ups to Lake County. What do they have left in the tank? How do you end the year? I think that's the biggest thing to watch with this Howlers team.
100%.
Well, I believe it comes now time to talk about the Guardians and everything that has been going on, to let out all of our frustrations and complaints, because I'll start here, and I'll start off very quickly. It's the fact that I think and I know I made the joke and it seemed like I was lashing out at Ethan earlier. I was not. It's the simple fact that, look, you shout at this organization to make some moves. They finally made some moves. And now a lot of people seem to be upset about some of the new acquisitions. Well, it's because they're not pulling what they were meant to do. Here's the frustration that Guardians fans and Cleveland fans are having in general with this team right now. They had the balls to go out and make those moves. They had the chutzpah to go out and trade for all these pieces that I think, no matter what the results have told you, does make the team better. The team is improved after the trade deadline. There is no question about it. It just hasn't translated, and that's the frustration right now. I'll get into a little bit more specifics, but I mean that really is my general frustration. It's just every move you made to get better hasn't panned out, and it's frustrating when you finally have and Ethan, you had said this earlier too. I think it's frustrating for a multitude of reasons. One, you're not producing the results on the field. You're falling farther behind and now out of a playoff spot, which has been very rare for the Guardians this year. But now, much like Ethan said, comes the question of, I know we've got to wait and see what the CBA does, but hey, they made moves and it doesn't work. Is that going to make the front office go, that's why we don't do it? That's why we don't spend the money.
Well, I think the biggest thing, like you said, is that they had the balls to go out and make those moves, right? I think, honestly, this has been the biggest trade deadline since the Andrew Miller trade, which might be crazy to say, but That's just
bigger, but just because of the amount of moves they made.
It just goes to show you that they just don't do these type of things, right? I think after the Yoho trade, I think if that would have been it, everybody would have kind of sat there and been like, yeah, that's kind of expected from us at the deadline. But they went out, they made moves, right? I can't fault the front office at all for the way that things have turned out after the moves, right? On paper, everybody loved those moves the day of. I think if we filmed the pod, the day of the deadline, I think we would all be sitting here very, very happy, right? I just think it's going to take time, like I mentioned earlier, for these guys to kind of click with each other, right? Obviously, Lau, he's shown pop in the bat. Adele, he's shown spurts of everything. And we know what Foster Griffin's made of, right? He was an all-star for a reason. So, again, it's not just those guys struggling. It's the entirety of the team. We're just going to have to see what happens. You got a whole month and a half left of the season to go. So, wouldn't overreact quite yet. But if things start to continue out this way as the season progresses, could be looking at a different
we lost
story.
David now.
No,
we lost me.
Oh, no, I'm here. If you need to log out and log back in, because if you can't hear us, log back out, log back in. Can you hear us, Nate?
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. So we've been terrible since the All-Star break. We are 9, according to what I'm looking at, baseballreference.com, we're 9-18 since the All-Star break. That's brutal. We are 4-9 in the month of August. We were able to tread water after we had 3 injuries on one day. What was it? It was Jose, DeLauder, and
Martinez.
And Angel Martinez. We were able to tread water while all that was going on. Yep. And probably Jose he's not 100%. He's doing the best he can out there. He's giving his effort. That's all I can ask. I got no problem with that. But to see the fact that we were able to keep that going and keep afloat during that time period, and then once you finally get some health and you make these acquisitions and moves, you're like, all right, we are ready to go. I feel like we can make a run, and it just hasn't happened. I mean, I'm looking at some, obviously for me, there, and I think for everybody, there's probably some glaring statistics on the hitting side of things. One is just our atrocious numbers with runners in scoring position and runners left on base. That is just awful. We must be the worst team ever that I can remember. And I'm being very hyperbolic here, of course, but it's been atrocious. We can't hit a sac fly. We can't lay down a bunt. It doesn't make any sense. We are blowing games that we should be winning. You bring guys in and they start walk a guy. What are we doing here, guys? Well, what the heck? Why are we waiting so long to go and talk to these pitchers? And before you know it, you done lost the game. And it's kind of nuts like that. And for as good as our pitching has been, the bullpen, I mentioned it earlier, they seem to be running on fumes. They just seem to be running on fumes. And to Mike's point, we haven't won a series since the Reds series. That was the last time we won a series. I was going to try and go back and look and see in recent days games that we've blown since basically we started August. The 6-5 loss in 10 innings to the Mets was a real kick in the crotch. Because we had that game and we totally pooped the bed because we couldn't manage the pitch, and then we had an error by Rocchio. It might have been a difficult play, whatever you want to call it, but it was self-inflicted wounds. We blew that opportunity. We'll lose there. I am looking to see if there were any other real close games that we should have had or could have had over the course of the month of August, and it's not jumping out at me right now. And then that's also another thing with our pitchers. 8 consecutive games we've hit a batter. It's a new franchise record streak for the Guardians. I don't understand what is going on with that. It was nice to see, I will say, Joey Cantillo bounce back yesterday. He had a couple of rough outings. He was getting touched up pretty badly. Definitely was good to see him bounce back. But it's been a hard watch. And the fact of the matter is, we came to that homestand with Arizona and the Mets thinking, okay, these are two pretty bad teams here. The Mets sold everybody, and we went 1-5 on that 6-game homestand. It's just not good enough, and there is a month and a half left in the season. Certainly would hope that maybe they can put together a few wins, because the door is wide open to at least make a run for a wild card position. Because Chicago, did we not talk about them earlier this year? And I don't know if people were poo-pooing them or writing them, thinking, it'll go, no biggie. Well, they've kept it up all season long. They ain't going away. They're in the playoff. They're going to be in the playoffs. They went from losing 2 years ago, losing over 100 games or whatever god-awful record they had with the manager asleep in the dugout, and now they're about to win the division out of nowhere when this door has been left wide open for the Guardians to take it, and they can't put it together.
Yeah, and I was one of those people that kind of thought that Chicago was going to go away. At the moment, they're 65-58. Detroit 5.5 back, and then us and Minnesota, we are tied for third in the division at 60-65. The only team really out of it is KC, 15 back, and they've just been horrendous all.
You want to talk about a
year.
Dumpster fire this year?
Yeah, didn't you have them winning the division, Nate?
I don't remember what my official prediction was, but on paper that team's really nice. Now they've had a lot of unfortunate luck in ineptitude in the front office and the managerial position, and they've been very hurt. Regardless, even with all that, they should not be this bad.
Yeah, and how about Detroit? They trade off their best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the league.
Really, their two best pitchers.
Yeah, Mize and Skubal, and they're winning now. And they're although they got humbled this weekend by the White Sox.
I guess we really haven't been on for a while. So my question to you guys is obviously the CBA, right? And obviously that's a big part in everything baseball for the entirety of this year. Do you guys think that it was already set in stone that we were going to miss some baseball, or was the Skubal thing the nail in the coffin? Because for me, that was kind of solidified for me that we're not going to have a full season next year.
Oh, I've known for a long time we weren't going to have a full season. And it's not because of anything the trade deadline does. Look, very quickly to have my opinion on that conversation, baseball does this to themselves. Baseball is a system set up for teams to exploit this in what some people might call a problem. I'm not going to outright call it that, because I know a lot of Dodgers fans, Mets fans, Phillies fans, they're going to argue with me on that, which is fine. Yankees fans too. But those teams take advantage and have an owner willing to do what nobody else does. And that's take advantage of a system where you can pay whoever you want, how much you want. You can acquiesce all of this massive talent, and then nobody can beat you. I mean, the NBA was this way for a long time before contract negotiations now are very different in the NBA. And you still have your big threes, and you still have your teams that are pretty loaded, but you don't have teams like Golden State anymore. You don't have teams like the Miami Heat or the San Antonio Spurs anymore. There are really good teams in the NBA, but contract negotiations are different. I think that's where baseball is probably going to head eventually. Is it going to be this CBA? I don't know. But I've known that we were not going to have a full season for a while, and it's just because the owners and players and even the players can't agree on what it is they want. Well, that's why we're not going to have full season of baseball.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, a vast majority of the players are going to benefit from a CBA with a salary cap and a salary floor, et cetera. It's the very top of the top that potentially are going to lose out on some money. And they're sitting there trying to control this whole thing. And I think that's rather selfish of them.
Yep.
And I don't know what the revenue splits are. I've looked at it, but I haven't gotten deep into the weeds to get a better understanding of how they break up the TV contracts. And because, again, everybody's got their own local markets. The Dodgers are getting $350 million alone from their TV deal. God only knows how much the Yankees get from like Yes Network, and whereas the Guardians were with what, MLB, and before that we had was it Diamond Sports Group, which was Bally Sports, and so on and so forth. But this is no way to run things, and they've got to fix something and change the model. I know that it's a great story to see a team make a run like a Milwaukee, or even years Cleveland has made a run and such of that nature. But it's not something that is sustainable.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't mean to cut you off, but I would like to interject and just say it can work. And you've seen it work. Like 2016 is the perfect exemplification that it can work. Now, the Cubs payroll was a lot more than the Guardians in that standpoint, even the Guardians then, much more than the Guardians now. But that's two teams that did not spend a crazy amount of money on those teams. The Cubs didn't spend a crazy amount of money on that 2016 team, and you got one of the greatest World Series of all time. It can work. It's, like you said, just not sustainable.
Right, and more times than not, you're going to have teams that have the higher payroll generally they're in the best position to win. Yep. They have the talent. It's basically saying, hey, I'm going to put together the dream team. To use a basketball type of try and make that connection of, I'm going to be able to pull the best talent and put it on one roster, and you can't do anything about it. And we're just going to go out and dominate and beat the snot out of you. It's not exactly 100% foolproof, as we have seen. However, it does put them with a distinct advantage.
I would compare it in a sense, obviously not identical, but I would, to an extent, I would compare it to college football. You have the higher teams, your SEC teams that are able to recruit better. You know, a Pac-12 team might not be able to compete with that.
Yeah.
And I mean,
but again, they're still obviously able to, win meaningful games at times. Obviously, two different sports, but
I think that's a very good comparison, because let's just take exactly what happened last year as the perfect example. Sure, a lot is different now at Indiana because of what happened last year and because of who is there now. But you take a look at Indiana even last year, they didn't spend a lot of money on that roster. They went and got out the best head coach that they felt like was worthy of the position. They put together the best roster that they felt like was going to win them the most meaningful football games. And they didn't lose anything last year. Now that team has all the resources and things that's the only where – That's the only part where college football is different. Like, if what Mike from the UK is saying, if it's a Rays and Brewers World Series, nothing's going to change within those organizations. They're still going to sit there, and the Rays are going to spend $70 million, and the Brewers are going to spend $120 million or whatever it is, because, hey, look, it's there. It's bang. It's not like college football where Indiana went and won the national championship last year. Now they have boosters and donors and NIL and revenue and more primetime TV slots. That's just not going to happen in baseball. That's why the CBA is so important and so broken, because nobody can agree. And this is the last thing that I will say about this topic. You cannot lose fans again. No. Baseball already has gone through many different periods, but more recently where they have just not been able to keep their fandom. There was a very long stretch of time where attendance, viewership, everything was down for everything, not just the regular season. It happened for the All-Star game, for the World Series, for spring training, even for minor league baseball. The game was down, and the game was losing fans. Fans are coming back to baseball. There's a lot of excitement in baseball, a lot of good young talent, and now they're bringing in more international talent from not just the Dominican levels and the Caribbean levels, but now from Europe and from Japan and from Korea. And baseball leagues across the world are starting to work together to compile into the best league that we have on planet Earth, and that is Major League Baseball. You can't lose fans again. You're not going to lose me or any of us, because we're all nerds. We will watch if nobody else is. but you're going to lose some of the more casual people
Yeah.
if you don't do this thing the right way.
Yeah, and it kind of along the lines and just trying to think through these things. How is it that the NBA, obviously they have a salary cap, and I don't know if they have a salary floor, but they certainly have the cap, and then they also they have the aprons, the first apron, the second apron. So if you're willing to spend into a luxury tax, you can do stuff. But they essentially were like, look, we're going to make a change so that you can't pull some shenanigans here. You won't be able to make many moves if you're in the second apron. But where I was going with it is the NBA has regional sports networks covering for every team. They've got their regional sports networks. How do they divvy up the television rights? And how does that differ? Because, again, it's a similar situation or scenario as we're talking about with Major League Baseball. And I guess the NHL as well. They have certain regional sports networks that carry games, and then they've got the national. So how do they divvy all that up and make that work? And why is it that baseball is like, no, not doing it?
Here's where I actually like one organization's model that I will touch on at the very end. But basketball even does a better job at giving everybody the spotlight. Like even the Brooklyn Nets are going to get a couple national televised games here and there every season. The National Hockey League is the perfect example of that. Look a couple years ago at the Outdoor Classic. It was not between like Pittsburgh and Boston, two big rivals, two original six teams that are going to go head to head at this great outdoor venue to be broadcast on the biggest stage and the most attended game of the year. They put it in the shoe between Detroit and Columbus, two very small market teams that I don't think either of them even made a playoff spot that year. The NHL is very good about giving everybody the spotlight and about divvying things out. Now, I know some more hardcore hockey fans might agree with me, or not agree, but might disagree with me there. But it's because when you compare them to Major League Baseball, who was so hard bent, how many times does it feel like back when ESPN was covering things, we got either the Subway Series or Yankees Red Sox on Sunday night? Felt like every other week we had Yankees Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. If not that, then it was Giants Dodgers, or sometimes the Phillies. Like they stuck to those big market teams. Baseball's got to fix that. Here's a model that I actually really like. Regional sports networks are great, but they're usually not available to everybody. That's where I like the NFL, because if you are in now where the NFL sucks, and it's tough for fans who are not in their home market. So if you're a Carolina fan and you live in Arizona, by God, you better hope that the Panthers are playing the Cardinals this year, because you might not get many Panthers games. Whereas for us, being Browns or Bengals or even Giants fans, we're right in that vicinity to where the regional network, your local CBS or Fox, is going to pick it up. Now, the CBS or Fox or even NBC have the broadcast capabilities to do that. For Major League Baseball, no, way too long of the season, not as high profile, but that's where I like the NFL. So if something can be like that, I hate to sit here and say that that's the one that I like the most, because I don't think it is. I think hockey's the one that I like the most. But I think it's impossible for baseball to do anything without their regional sports networks. It's just such a long season. You've got to have something for fans to watch.
Well, I think that in comparison to the NFL too, the NFL does a lot of platform exclusive games as well.
Now they are. Now,
yeah.
in recent years, they have begun doing that. Yeah. But before then, you literally had the games on. Your Sunday games have been on CBS and Fox for God knows how long, and probably more than a decade. Your Sunday night football has been on NBC for quite a while, and your Monday night was on ESPN. And now, of course, they are sprinkling in all of these other streaming platforms. But the best part about it is, even though I think it sucks and I have to spend a butt ton of money on NFL Sunday Ticket to be able to watch the Clowns, is that I can do that. And I am happy now that I was able to get the Cleveland Guardians TV for a reasonable price to watch their games. So that's very helpful. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to worry. The each individual organization, it doesn't have their own deal with some company. and getting their own media rights deal. It's all controlled through the NFL, whether we like that or not. And so then the money gets split up nice and even, and they've got a system in place, and it does make it more competitive. You can't just go out and buy a bunch of players. You have to recruit, I say recruit. You have to scout well, you have to draft well, and then you've got to make prudent moves when necessary. If you do need to make an acquisition, a trade, or whatever it is, there is a lot that goes into it. And it stinks that you've got a team like the Guardians where they have an excellent front office and they do a great job scouting. And then what do we get out of that? Oftentimes, the best players that they have developed, we have to trade them away for pennies on the dollar because we're worried we're going to get nothing for them if we don't make a trade. And this is just all point Tarek Skubal being traded, maybe because of the impending work stoppage possibility, or the fact that, again, they're thinking, look, we're not going to be able to pay this guy after this year. Let's get something back in return. That's just a sad, sad, sad state of affairs.
Yep. Okay, cool. Last thing I will say on the Guardians before I am done for the show is how do we fix it? And how do the Guardians turn this thing around? There are a couple things that I want to say before I say my answer. First off, you come out of the All-Star break and you get off to a little bit of a slower start than I think you were expecting. You drop that series to the Pirates, but you still win 3 of your first 5. I think those games Monday and Tuesday in late July against the Twins were great. You're thinking, okay, let's go. The turning point for me wasn't even that 10-6 loss because, okay, you don't pitch, things happen. It was that 3-1 meltdown in 12 innings where they were 0 of 18 with runners in scoring position. Here's a stat for you. The Guardians are the 4th worst team in Major League Baseball this year with runners in scoring position. The 3 teams worse than them, the Cincinnati Reds, the Seattle Mariners, and surprisingly, the New York Yankees.
Wow.
So those are the 3 worst teams now. At the top of the list, or towards the top of the list, you're going to have teams like the Giants and the Marlins and the Brewers and the Dodgers and some of the other teams that are sitting up on top of their pedestals in their division. But this is that's the turning point for me. That's where I think, you lose a game like that, and things can, because obviously you look at what happened in Tampa Bay. You did not score a run for 18 innings of baseball. Now, good to get the Ohio Cup back. I like that. I like being able to win that back from Cincinnati, to win 4 of 6 from them this year. But again, that home stand against Arizona, New York was very disappointing. You're only able to get 2 on this road trip, and you always like to go 500 on road trip, especially in the division. So this is the other frustrating part, is that's where Cleveland has done well in years past. Even with the teams that have not been very good, they've won the games that you need to win in your division. And that's not the case this year, Ethan. Well, I'm talking, if you want to try to find their record in the division so that you can bring up, I would gladly appreciate that statistic, because we have got to be below 500, and I would like to know how far. But how do you turn it around? Well, after the trade deadline, I think you've only won, 4 games? Yeah, only 4 or 5 games since the trade deadline. It's been bad. They have not won back-to-back games since the first 2 games of the series in Minnesota a month ago. They have not been able to win back-to-back games. In fact, they have not prevented a 2-game losing streak since the Red Series in late July. It's been half a month since this team has played consistent baseball where you can be able to, hey, maybe there's a loss in between some wins, but you're able to rattle some things out. Here's the biggest thing. You've got to find your consistency, and you've got to find your footing. Whether that is the pitching getting better, the bats turning things around, the defense not making that many mistakes, you have got to find consistency in everything at the same time. Let's go back to the game against Saturday, right? pretty much everything was working. The bats were working, or actually, I should say Friday is the better example because you get up 3-0. The bats start out hot. Pitching is on the upswing, and then things go downhill from the pitching standpoint. The offense puts up a couple more runs, but you can't do anything when you have a bases loaded scenario against the team packed with a lot of really talented hitters like San Diego. Even though they've been a down team this year, you've just got to find consistency and put everything together. I think the thing, and this is the last thing that I'll say before Ethan will say the record in the division and Taven and Ethan can say the piece. They've got to find out what kind of team they want to be. I think the identity is where they're really struggling right now. Do you want to keep playing the guards ball game of, hey, let's get 6 solid innings from the pitcher, let's score 4 to 5 runs and have the bullpen come in and shut things down? Or now do you have to adapt that and say, look, we've got to get some more from this offense. We can't rely on pitching as much. Are we going to be the best fielding? You've got to find out what kind of team you want to be. And I think once everybody can buy into an identity, then I think you can start to see some turnaround. But you've got to figure out what kind of team you want to be for the last month and a half of the season, and you've got to buy into that. And then you've just got to go win games. You still, and I believe still, have the most favorable schedule the rest of the way in Major League Baseball. You play the Giants, bad. You play the Rockies and Angels on the road. If that's a road series, we don't get 4 wins. I don't know what to tell you. Come around, turn back and play the dumpster fire Royals, then the Blue Jays who have been bad, then the Tigers in a 4-game set. You've got to get some wins. That the only teams that you play the rest of the season that will even sniff above 500 are the White Sox and the Red Sox. You've got to figure out a way to turn things around. It starts with buying into what your identity is going to be. What kind of baseball do you want to play for the last month and a half? Figure it out and buy into it. That's the best situation moving forward.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Nate. So I found the stats. Mike from the UK also did. We are 19-17 versus the Central Division.
That is shocking.
I know, isn't it? The White Sox are 23-13. We have the next best record at 19-17, Minnesota 19-18. The East, we struggle 8-14 against the East, 13-12 against the West, and in interleague play 20-22. This is it's a 500 team. That's what this team is.
Yeah.
This is a 500 team. When you talk about the identity, I believe they do have to be the type of team that plays mistake-free. They don't have the bats to consistently try and jack home runs and score a ton of runs. They are putting themselves in position on most games to win. Today, not so much. We got 3 GD hits. You can't say that on the air. Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway. But when we have all those guys left in runners left in scoring position, those are the games we need to win. We need a clutch hit. We don't need a clutch home run. We need a single, a double, a sac fly, for God's sake, a bunt. It's not that difficult. I'm starting to wonder certainly Matt Festa has made a deal with the devil, and the pitching. They mentioned this on ESPN Cleveland the other day. Can you imagine, or if you want to trace back some things that talk about the bullpen and how it's doing, Clase.
Oh, yeah.
His stupidity really messed things up. I love Cade Smith, but even he has his own troubles. He has some trouble sometimes there. I've been saying that instead of sometimes him going in there, and other pitchers too, and pitching, they're throwing. They're throwing, and they're not hitting spots, and they're walking guys in the self-inflicted wounds. You cannot do that. You can't wiggle your way out of these situations. You got poor starting pitching that they're killing themselves because they give up 2 runs, and they can't get a win. I think Parker Messick was rather upset a couple nights ago. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that we're having these kinds of of issues, but I think based upon the personnel in the lineup, the team needs to focus on doing the little things right, which is what we have come to call guards ball over the past season, maybe 2 seasons. That's what they have to do. You need to get guys on base and relax. They've got to relax. And I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here for just a moment. Okay?
Don't get struck by lightning.
I'll try not to. Tanner Bybee is pretty adept at giving up home runs. Pretty consistently. Do you think there's any rooster fighting going on?
No. Ridiculous accusation. That's a ridiculous, crazy thing to say.
I told Taven, I was talking to my man Drew. He was at the game today, and I told him, I said, I feel like Phil Collins. This is in the second inning because I feel it, a home run coming in the air tonight. Boom, gone. I called it without calling it, and I'm just saying. That's it.
Well, let's as I always like to say, positive sandwich this thing. The organization did just get their 10,000th overall win yesterday, so we can celebrate the little things there. 10,000's a lot. Means you're a very successful baseball team.
Yeah.
And again, you still have one of the easiest schedules left, and you're only a game and a half out. This is why I think it's so frustrating. If this team were floundering and we're 6 games out of a playoff spot, let's see how they finish the season. You're a game and a half out. You are just 6 games back of a division title for the 18th consecutive time. And it's not like you didn't do this last year, guys. You were far and away out of a playoff spot. You were far and away back of this division. And honestly, the team on paper is a lot worse last year than they were this year. And I know the team on paper this year is still not great. Team on paper is still a 500 team. But honestly, with how bad the American League has been, 500 might just get you a wild card spot. It's not 500's not going to win you the division. Not with the way the White Sox are.
Well, you look at the American League too. Baltimore has that last wild card spot, and they're sitting 2 games under 500 at 61 and 63.
500 gets you a playoff spot. If this team can figure out a way, you can't play 500 baseball from this point out. But if you figure out a way to just win some of those games that this season you have lost. Like you find a way to win a game like that 12-inning loss 3-1 against Minnesota. You find a way to win that 6-5 game that you lost against the Mets. You find a way to pull some of these things out and change your expected record, so to say, change your expected result. We're probably feeling a whole lot better about the way this team is going. Look, you have Foster Griffin, who was great in his last start. You have Parker Messick. You have Gavin Williams going against the San Francisco Giants.
Yep.
Not asking for a sweep, but let's get a series win. Let's get started off on the right track. And then I think you go into the road series with a lot of confidence against the two of the worst teams in baseball. In fact, 3 of the worst teams in baseball, 4 of the worst teams in baseball this year in your next 4 series after you finish out your homestand. This team cannot go 500 during this series. I know I just said let's find a way to get some confidence back up, and 500 is better than what they have been doing. You've got to go above 500. Over the next 15 games, I'd like to see 9 wins.
I was going to say 10.
9 or 10, anything more would be fantastic. But you're playing some of the worst teams in baseball.
Yep.
At times they've looked like it this year. This is not one of the worst teams in baseball. This is a 500 team that just needs to figure out their stuff.
Yeah,
and quite simply.
And Mike posed a good question. You guys are the experts here, but do you think they could possibly try and go back to a 6-man rotation?
I just don't know what it helps. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I'm just
what
just
does it
wondering.
aid them to do to go to a 6-man rotation? Like to throw in another guy and not get to the top end of your rotation sooner when you need wins more than ever now.
Sure.
Honestly, I would go if they could handle it, go to a 4-man rotation. Kick Bybee or Cantillo to the curb and roll with Griffin, Messick, Williams, and then whoever else you see fit. Go with a 4-man rotation. I would rather do that than go 6. Let's get to some of these top guys before we round things out with Logan Allen and then try to get back to Foster Griffin.
Fair enough.
Neither will happen is my prediction. I think they will stick with the 5-man.
They'll stick with the 5 off of just the fact that nobody's gotten hurt this season from that, right? That's been the bread and butter over the past, how many years since they've done that 6-man rotation. That's what you're going to stick with. I think all those guys definitely have the stuff. They've been in some slumps, each one of them, throughout the year, but we know they have the stuff, especially the top end of that bullpen starting rotation with Messick and Williams. Yeah, I don't see why you would push that to a 6-man rotation just to delay those guys, because those guys have been the staples of the entirety of the team this entire year.
Yeah, I don't think there's any changes to the starting rotation coming, apart from who you have people starting, so to say. Like maybe you kick Cantillo out and Logan Allen comes in or something along the likes. I know Slade Cicconi's on the IL, probably for the better. He had been really struggling. And obviously a 4-man starting rotation is blasphemous and about the dumbest thing I've ever said, but it exemplifies my point. I do not want a 6-man rotation. I don't think I have anything left to say other than please find a 40-man spot for Ralphie Velasquez. That is my final plea of the night.
Perfect.
Ethan?
Yeah, I don't have much else to add here. Yeah, and I see Mike said he agrees that he saw a few people suggesting the 6-man rotation. He agrees it's not the great idea there. Yeah, I just, they got to take it one game at a time. That's the only way to do it. It's just like, I say this and I really mean it loosely. It's like last year, you're 15 and a half games out, one game at a time. That's all you can do. You have to control your controllables. You can't scoreboard watch and worry about what everybody else is doing. You go out and you win. I think that for me, second most frustrating thing after the ability to hit in clutch situations is the inconsistency in the bullpen. Our middle relief has been not so good, and that's kind of putting it nicely. And they've been inconsistent. Even Hunter Gaddis will have his games where he can't throw a stinking strike. Sabrowski, he was doing amazing. Then he's all over the place. Cade Smith has games where he looks amazing and is just putting people away in a hurry. And then there's other games where, as I said, he's throwing, he's not pitching.
I do want to clarify that, by the way. Ethan is not accusing anybody, even though he did just do it to Tanner Bybee, of legitimately throwing and fixing a baseball game. It is the exemplification of you are throwing with a buddy in the backyard and not pitching to throw strikes.
Well, yes, that in that instance, yes. When I say throwing, I mean as in you are not.
I wanted to clarify that in case anybody was like, he's got the tinfoil hat on again. You did with Bybee.
But these guys, no. When I say with these guys throwing, I mean as in they're not using all of the technique and the skills that they have as major league pitchers. I was, of course, joking about the Tanner Bybee and the home run ball.
Were you?
Maybe a little bit. maybe there's a little bit of truth in that. No, and so like I said, hitting is one, and the pitching, the relief pitching, the bullpen is 1A in my mind. But you take it one game at a time. They've got to chill out. Guys have been fine. Look, Stephen Kwan. We were thinking he was ready to leave him for dead, and he's
positive.
He's been very, very good. I'm so glad that he's bounced back. And we've seen the rookie struggles. Guys come up, they're hot, then they're not. And it's going to take a little bit of time. We've got a lot of positives. It just stinks and the frustrating, as you said, it's such a bad American League this year. And you felt like, and really, to use a Browns kind of way of describing it, we say we just need average quarterback play, right? When we were talking about the defense being really good, we need average hitting to support this pitching staff, and we can't even get average. So,
very last topic of conversation, very quickly, and then Taven, you can spew your thoughts. We'll let you go first. Mike has asked this question a couple times, and we have yet to address it. Chase DeLauder, if he ends up on the IL, which personally I don't think is going to happen. I just don't see Chase DeLauder getting on the IL. Maybe they consider him day-to-day, but I don't think an IL stint is the move for Chase. I just don't think you can afford that this late in the season, but regardless of my opinion there, if it does happen, the only thing I'll say is I don't think it's going to be anybody new that gets called up. It'll be a face we've seen before.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Obviously, the name that everybody kind of comes to mind is Ralphie Velasquez, but that would obviously take freeing up a spot on the 40-man roster. I'm just going to the 40 right now. If, DeLauder goes on the IL, I honestly think it's Fry or Manzardo that rejoins the team.
I think it's Fry.
I would lean Fry. I
think it's Fry or Watson. You got to have somebody to get into the outfield. That's where Watson's been a little bit more comfortable at the major league level, at least where they've played him. For Fry, he can definitely play it, and he's been swinging the bat better than Watson in AAA. So we'll see what happens if that's the case, which, again, I just don't think is going to happen. So, well, we've rambled on about the guards enough. I know maybe a little bit of a sloppier return, but we'll get back into the swing of clean things next week. And, as we really start to build a routine for the fall, Taven, a lot of high school sports coming up for you. Do you have your football schedule? Yeah, your football coverage schedule. Or are you going to kind of go on a week-to-week basis this year?
For the most part, I'm going to be at a lot of McKinley stuff. Got a deal in place with them to cover a lot of their games. So obviously that'll lead me to
we get payment for this?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that boy.
Yeah. So it'll be a fun year with the guys. And
where can the people find all the Canton, McKinley, and other coverage?
Yep, at Stark Sports Coverage, as you see right down there on Instagram. Everything Stark County high school football. We're hitting the ground hard this week as everything starts to kick off Thursday, and it's going to be go time. So
I am hitting the ground hard with all of my things going on over here. First volleyball game is Tuesday. Got another one on Saturday, and it is my first game in the booth in one of the longest-running high school football rivalries in the entire nation, but also most notably in the great state of Ohio, as the voice of the Bellefontaine Chieftains, Bellefontaine and Sydney. Both teams did not have that great of years last year, but big rivalry is always fun, and it always gets a little chippy when you talk about Bellefontaine and Sydney. Otherwise, got a sports podcast this week, local athletics among here in Champaign, Logan County, Ohio. And you can find everything I do at Tailgate Nate 29, sitting right down here, Instagram, and pretty much any other social media that you do use, along with peakofohio.com. Follow along with all the local sports articles I write, and even hear my lovely, lovely, or not so lovely voice, depending on your preference, on the radio. Ethan Greenberg.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? You can follow me on X at egreen4325. The Going Nuclear podcast, part of the Land Multimedia Group. And then, of course, here with the fellas on Prospects of the Land. I do not have anything big lined up quite yet or right now. Basketball season will be coming, obviously, in a few months. But for right now, we are just chilling and talking baseball over here and everything else that is going on with Cleveland sports. Obviously, we're all going to be excited for college football to start up and all the other good things going on, and we'll be talking over on Going Nuclear, keeping up with Tottenham Hotspur and the Premier League, the Columbus Crew, when NHL gets into the, when the puck drops. Certainly, we're going to be talking a little bit about them. Just to kind of give everybody a bigger variety and taste of what is going on. Definitely looking forward to all these things. And that's just amazing. Taven, covering all the stuff with McKinley. I'm sure it won't be long before I'm telling you, you're going to be starring on 88.1 WZIP. You're just going to be the man.
Woo.
Yep. You're going to be running the Talk of Akron. Oh, no, that's a different station. But you know what I'm saying. WZIP. Oh, yeah.
Mike, I can't wait for Ohio State, Ball State. Let's look at the first game first. I mean, yes, I can't wait for Ohio State, Texas. I want to see the boys get on the field.
Yeah, definitely going to be good times there. But, yeah, follow me at egreen4325 where I post everything on X about all that's going on with the Going Nuclear podcast and anything else that I've got happening.
For the affiliates this week, really fast, I will pull it up. The Hill City Howlers, we start from the bottom and we go all the way to the top. They are going to be they're going to be playing Charleston, the River Dogs. So Rays and Guardians will go at it this week in the single A affiliate market. The Lake County Captains, they are going to be going up against the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. So a very big series there between two teams trying to fight for that playoff spot. Akron's back at home this week. They will be playing they'll be playing Harrisburg, and then Columbus, for what feels like the 20,000th time this year, will get a series at home against St. Paul and hope to keep good things rolling for the Clip Show. Taven, your final number today, and people that were tuning in.
Highest number on the day, 35.
Love it. I know a couple weeks gone. Thanks for getting back with us tonight. We'll be back again next week. Stay up to date with everything going on with Cleveland baseball, with Prospects of the Land, and with all of us in our own individual media coverage lives. Bam, minor league baseball. We only got about a month left of it. Isn't that crazy?
Wild.
Only about a month left of minor league baseball. And then a month and a half for the major league season. We will be here all throughout the rest of baseball. Ethan Greenberg, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I appreciate it.
Let us go to bed.
Nothing over here. Well, once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in, getting back into the swing of things. We will be back next week. Take care, everybody.